This is how coincidence happens. That's about linking of dots. Like there's a कहावत, खुद ही को कर बुलंद इतना कि खुदा तेरी तकदीर लिखने से पहले पूछे बता तेरी रजा क्या है.
I've stood in queues for over 2 hours only to hear we don't sponsor international students.
When you're very early in life, you know that what direction you're going to take. Number one, if it's for him family business, the North Star has to be that. For me, North Star was a question mark. Like, what do I want to do in life? I didn't know.
I think so. When we say innovation, so I used to think that innovation is introducing maybe a new product line or something that's never been done before. But innovation could also be, so in my role specifically when I'm talking about ops, innovation can also be along the line of introducing systems, systems that maybe the company or the industry has never seen before.
So thank you all for coming here. I hope you all find some value in this conversation that we do. But before that, to put some structure to the whole event, I'll give my brief introduction. Sarthak will give his brief introduction. And then we'll walk you through what is the actual theme of this event. Like, why do we have these Arthavads? To just give you a spoiler or for context. So Arthavaad's deeper meaning is finding Arth in conversations, right? When we look at financial conversations, they are very transactional in nature. But beyond that, what we are trying to find is the essence of culture, the essence of family, the essence of upbringing, the essence of conditioning as to how people have built empires, how people have comprehended finance, and how people have even taken it to the next generation. So that's what we want to bring from Arthavaad to you guys. And you guys being the youngest, brightest minds out here in Bombay, in Maharashtra, in India, I think, I'm super, super excited. So I think first, aap logo ke liye taaliya for being here. Thank you so much for coming. So about me. So my name is Ajitesh Gupta. I come from a city called Delhi. But being very honest with you, I love Bombay more than Delhi. I love the rain, I love the people, I love the food. So it's a pleasure being here in this city. I went to a school called Delhi Public School, Vasant Kunj. Did my schooling there. Then went to University of Edinburgh, did computer engineering there. And I have been told that most of you guys are engineers yourself, right? But I took the decision to do a master's in management from Imperial College of London. The reason was I didn't know what to do with the engineering degree. It was damn boring for me, at least. I could not sit in front of a computer and code all day. And I was like, if I can't do that, then what I will do in life? So I was like, let's explore a master's. There I got the hands-on experience, both practical and theoretical, of the business world. And of course, being in the city makes you so inspired as to how people have built things in life that it is, the experiences, like it can't be compared to any other experience whatsoever. And for you guys, case in point, Bombay, the finance hub of India. So that's my educational background. I have interned at plethora of places, all industries, and I would not flex it because I did that because I was damn confused. So I was a quant product analyst at Varun Beverages, did investment banking at Deutsche Bank. Then I did a software tester internship part-time at a company called Vector Capital, then derivative market analyst in the same company, then strategy intern at Bentley Systems, financial analyst at Innovate. So I have gobbled down a lot of internships from different industries. But irrespective, how did that pan out in my life? Now I run Crowd. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Crowd. It's a social media platform for investors and traders, and we are trying to democratize financial discussions. Getting away from all the stock tips, advice that you have on Instagram, Telegram, WhatsApp. So we're just trying to, give voice to the most credible voices out there, leveraging AI. So jitne bhi followers hai, likes hai, it doesn't matter to us. It just matters. What matters to us is content. So I run that company. We have a team of 50 plus people. We are raising our third round now, pre-series A, but we are born in Europe. I'll come to the journey of Crowd later, but this is what we do at Crowd. And besides that, I am co-founding member of Plaksha University as well. And now I'm advising two companies. One is in farm tech and one is in music tech. सो ज़िंदगी बहुत छोटी है, सब कुछ खुद अनुभव करने के लिए, इसलिए दूसरों के अनुभवों से सीखो, दूसरे तजुर्बों से सीखो. Learn that from Chanakya. So yeah, that's what I do. But besides that also, black belt 14 holder in Taekwondo, and represented Delhi in air pistol shooting, 10 meters. So that's about me, and I love cooking. I just love cooking. I adore cooking. So yeah, that's my life in just 2 minutes for you guys. And later we'll delve into the conversation that I'm going to be having with Sarthak. So thank you all for listening. Now over to Sarthak.
Thank you, Ajitesh. So I just want to make something very clear. I'm not a black belt in Taekwondo. but, no, but, no. So yeah, I come from Delhi, but I want to start by thanking Ajitesh and crowd and to everybody who's here. It's an absolute honor. I mean, I feel so grateful and privileged to be here. And again, just thank you for the opportunity. But yeah, so I come from Delhi. I was born and brought up in Delhi. I went to school in Noida, and right after I went to Purdue in the US, where I pursued my bachelor's in electrical engineering. Spent 4 years there and interned at different places. So I was studying electrical engineering, but my focus was more on the computer engineering side, embedded systems, and PCB design. So I interned at Cummins, which makes diesel gensets. Then I also interned at IIT Delhi as a research intern because they had a project going on to serve some of the biggest manufacturing setups in India. It was along the 4.0, Industry 4.0 lines. This was around my third or fourth year, and then I graduated in 2019. I wanted to work in the US for some time, but right as I graduated, COVID had hit the US and, of course, everywhere else, and plans changed. So I moved back to India. I joined a tech startup in Delhi where I worked as a product manager. And while I was in Delhi, I figured I might as well give my family business a chance. It wasn't planned. It was just something I thought could be an experiment. Experiment is the right word. And somehow I ended up in my family business, and that was 4.5 years ago. And since then, I went to London to get my master's degree at Imperial College, where I met Ajitesh. And I've been back for about 2 years now, and I'm working full time in my family business. So it's a brief introduction. So the story is long and it's full of twists. But yeah, here we are. So thank you again.
Oh, thank you so much, Sarthak. Thank you. So, I think let's address the first question. What made you choose the subject of engineering? And what you're doing right now, how is it correlated?
So, I don't have a very sophisticated answer for this, but I come from a CBSE background, and in 11th grade, we're asked to choose a stream between science, commerce, and arts, and I honestly didn't have clarity on what I wanted to do. So this is the truth. So I went. We used to have a library periods, right? So I was in the library, and I just asked some of my seniors what books they have. I just picked out books from each stream and started reading through those books, and I just found I enjoyed science more. So I went for science, and then I really enjoyed the experiments we had in our curriculum in 11th and 12th grade. And even back home, the kinds of conversations I grew up around were all engineering based. So I think somewhat passively it was, I did absorb a lot of it, a lot of those conversations, and that shaped my interest quite a bit. But I think it was more, at that age, I think it was more academically driven than practically more. So, but yeah, so that was my logic for going behind engineering. I just thought that this is what I'm okay at, and this is what I like studying about. So yeah.
My question is to the audience sitting here. So, most of you are doing engineering. How many of you are doing it by choice? Please raise your hand. Okay. And how many of you doing it by, societal expectation, parental pressure? Please raise your hands. One of them is the first one. But okay, that's quite interesting. So most of the audience here would relate to you that you guys did it out of choice. But there's a paradoxical side to it where you do a lot of things without choice. You are being pushed, nudged for that, and the immediate nudge that you get is from your family, right? And case in point for me, computer engineering. I didn't know anything about computer engineering, and of course I was nudged to do it because of one reason कि बेटा future बहुत अच्छा है computer science का, and like कर लेते हैं, and I struggled a lot. I'm like I can't find the passion to study it every single day in and out, and but yes, there are certain moments in life which are turning points. So one of my friend's father said, if you excel in something that you don't like, think about what you'll do in something that you really like. मैंने उस बात की गांठ बांध ली. I took it to my heart and I said that I want to do engineering just for the sake of doing it because I don't like it. And then automatically, see, life is so beautiful. And I'll come to you after this point that I make, is that when you're nudged from a side which you don't like I didn't like computer engineering, my subconscious automatically makes me do things or explore things which I might like. And that's where I ended up with economics, that's where I ended up with finance. And that happened only because I started investing and trading at a very early age. But I'll come to that. But for you, you said that you have joined your family business 4.5 years back, right? And the fun thing, guys, is when I was at Imperial with him, when the lectures were going on, he was working on his business directly. And you know, most of the people sitting at the back of his seat, they were interested more in what he was seeing than what was happening in the lecture actually. But for you, in context, were you always shaped to lead the family business?
Not at all, actually. So, even when I was growing up, there were never talks about me joining the business. There was never any mention of succession, or there was never any mention of any expectations that my family had or the company had. I honestly had very different plans, if I can get into that. So, when I went to the US, I actually wanted to stay there for some time and work. I wanted to get a job. And so I spent my 4 years just chasing internships. It was hard enough already, for engineering grads. It was harder for international students. So all my efforts were along the lines of building my resume. I started working part time in college. I was always at career fairs or like events that companies held. And so over time, I mean, my interests were more around computer hardware and somewhere along software as well. So that is something I worked towards in my undergrad. And when I did get a job, I mean, I'd already had like a couple internships before. And when I got a job, I was in the mindset, okay, I'm going to be living in San Jose, working at Western Digital, designing hard drives, designing PCBs. And that was the mindset I was in. I had absolutely no clue or no intention of joining my family business at that age. The original idea was to work in that industry, get an MBA a few years down the line, and then join maybe now at like 28 or 29 or even 30. So, yeah, to answer your question, the conditioning was more passive. I feel it was more along the lines of being. I would say, I mean, less about having the domain knowledge, but more about being affiliated with the business on like in the background. I feel. I mean, I was just asked to be aware of what was happening in the business. I was never asked to participate. There was never an expectation to participate. So it just so happened that when I got a job in the US, when I had an offer, my start date was around 16th March 2020, and that was when COVID had hit, right when it hit. And students or new grads were always at the bottom of the food chain in the US, and international students weren't even considered for jobs then. So I got an offer. I got my offer letter, and a week later the offer was rescinded. And so I was in the US, and every international student gets a work permit called the OPT, which allows you to work in the US for a year. And there's only 90 days of unemployment you get on your OPT. So when I got the offer, I had already accrued 80 days out of those 90 days. And when the offer disappeared, I had 10 more days in the US, and beyond that, I couldn't, couldn't stay in the country anymore. So, I mean, I like eventually figured out a way, but there was a time for about 4 or 5 months where I had absolutely no idea what to do. I couldn't stay in the US. My visa didn't allow me to. I couldn't travel back to India because there were no planes, in the sky. I mean, operations were deserted, right, at airports. So I came back on an Air India Vande Bharat mission, and yeah, it just so happened that, like I said before, I joined a startup and ended up in my family business. So it was coming back to the point. So it was never planned. It just happened by chance.
No.
Yeah.
So, if I may ask all of you here, so how many of you guys want to do a corporate job? Please raise your hands. Wow. Okay. Max 10 hands. Entrepreneurship? Or you want to be an entrepreneur? Okay, wow. Family business? Okay, wow. So I see few hands, like you mentioned, like for being an entrepreneur and doing the family business, you want to bring certain new innovation to your own family business. That's a path that you want to take? The person in grey t-shirt, full sleeve, yes.
I haven't thought about it, but honestly, I want to be to that level and then explore.
Okay, fair, fair. Now I'm just touching base on what you should take. Like, see, we're just gonna be talking about certain frameworks of mind of how we have taken certain decisions and how to maneuver through all of those. So that should be the end goal of this, discussion that we are having, and we have it in a discussion format so that it feels more approachable. It's not a lecture, nothing like that. So if we will open the door for questions later, but yes, let me dive into the question now that I have for you. So let's touch base on the undergrad part. See, a lot of people here want to do internships, want to do full-time jobs, and being true, get some work experience. So how did you maneuver these tricky, avenues of landing an internship, being in an unknown land, being an international student? How did you find that niche? And how did you know that computer hardware was only something that you wanted to do? So the ideal answer for them would be the framework which helps you find this niche and helps you land that internship or job.
So, I honestly had no such framework. It was like we used to talk amongst ourselves that beggars can't be choosers. And I mean, international students, whatever we could, get was what we had. So, there was really no choice. And I was interested at working, I really wanted to work at Boeing, but Boeing doesn't hire international students. So I've stood in queues for over 2 hours only to hear we don't sponsor international students. So that is what I saw myself doing when I was 18. Matlab ki maybe at 25, 26, I want to be working at Boeing, but it didn't work out. So I had to strike that out. So, computer hardware or systems design, embedded systems, this was just, it happened by chance again. It was just courses that I enjoyed. The projects I was working on, I had a good time, and it just worked out that way because there were some companies that were willing to sponsor international students, and I got an opportunity to work in that same domain. So I figured, okay, I think I'm good at it. I enjoy it, so might as well consider doing it. I see a future in this country, in this particular domain. So it was less about my interests and more about what would help me secure a job in the US. It was more along the lines of survival and longevity. So yeah, so there was, honestly for me there was no such framework, but and I can't say that there should be a framework. I think it is very coincidental. It is very circumstantial of how you end up where you are. So, but I will say I did have some friends who had clarity from the very beginning, but they also had certain factors that were in favor of their ambition. Like they didn't have issues with their visas, or they didn't have they weren't exactly studying abroad. They were from a different state. So yeah, I didn't have a framework. But if you have that sense of security, like in India, we all do, relatively more than when you're studying abroad, for instance. So it might just be right to have like a certain framework, and you should just be willing to deviate from it when the time comes.
So when you talk about interest, when we are students, we are very, capricious. We are very confused ki what can we do in life? What should we do in life? And the decision making dilemma is so high that, future seems so uncertain that we really get stressed in that moment, right? So you talked about interest. So how did you have the conviction that your interest will pan out in a way that you want it to happen? And you use the word coincidental, right? So how was that faith established in the future of coincidence that linking of dots would happen then?
The thinking of
Dots would happen. Conviction tha kahin na kahin. How are you so sure of that?
honestly, conviction was and still is more along the lines of कि चलो कुछ तो हो ही जाएगा. We'll end up somewhere. It was never the ambition then and even now is never कि I see myself in a certain position at a certain company at a certain level. earning a certain amount. It's never like that. I guess in some cases it should be, but for me, since the beginning, it's always been just believing in yourself. I mean, even if we were always prepared that we weren't going to find anything in the US, and all our investments, by our, I mean my family's investment, would just go to waste. I mean, that was one of the biggest fears, and that fear always loomed on us, 24/7. So the only conviction we could have was over things we can control. We could control our grades. We could make our resumes more appealing to companies that were willing to sponsor international students, and that was pretty much it. I mean, we could invest in personal development in whatever time we got outside of assignments and curricular activities. So as long as I'll speak about myself. So as long as I was confident that I was working on myself and I was getting better, that's the only conviction I had. I mean, there was no certainty I could see, and of course the goal was to achieve something in the US, but the conviction was just along the lines of, okay, you just keep working and we'll see what happens.
Very interesting. So let's build on to your business now. Can you tell us in specific numbers the output that your business has and compare it with the change that you're bringing to, let's say, the broader steel industry in India? So over to you. Just talking about your business.
So when you say numbers, what exactly do you want me to?
Your like who are your partners, Jindal, Rungtas, how are you helping them? How you're a leader in your industry? All of that. Yeah.
So I'll just very briefly explain what I do. So my company's name is Kathuria Rollmills. Kathuria is my surname. It's a 50-year-old business, and in very simple words, we are machine manufacturers. So we're making machines that people like Jindal, JSPL, or Tata use to make steel. And when you ask, when you ask me to elaborate on numbers, a simple case would be I'm supplying machines to a customer who's going to make 500,000 tons of steel in a year, or 0.5 million tons of steel. And India's net production last year at the end of 2024 was over 145 million tons. So I mean, there's when you talk about impact, I mean, there's hundreds of maybe thousands of such manufacturers would need to rake up their production levels and combine them to achieve that capacity. Maybe someone is producing 3 million tons or 10 million tons, somebody is producing 0.1 billion tons. So I mean, this is what I do. So we're machine makers, and our impact is, our only goal is to support manufacturers in the country, or steel producers. Our only goal is to make them more able and more capable of producing even more. So yeah, that is what we do.
And what is your direct involvement in the firm right now?
So I have a dual responsibility. I oversee operations in my company. What that means is any order or any project that we get, there's a certain phase of it that lies with the engineering teams, where you're engineering the entire plants, and then once you're complete with the whole engineering setup, it moves to the manufacturing stage. So that is where I come in. So my role is entirely ops, and I have to make sure that with the limited resources we have, we're able to satisfy, or able to meet our commitments to the customer. So the commitments are in the forms of delivery timelines and quality and machining standards and whatnot. So that is what I do. That is my first responsibility. The second responsibility I have is I lead an independent vertical within the family business. So there's 4 verticals. I just spoke about the first. The second vertical, all 4 verticals complement each other. They make different kinds of product, but they're essentially all in the same industry. The fourth, the vertical that I look after specifically deals with binding machines, or when you see when you see steel going on trucks, or when you see those strip coils, you would see that they're packaged in a certain way. They're tied with steel wires. So traditionally that's been done manually in India, and the vertical that I look after is now offering machines that does it automatically. So it's again tying back to increasing production levels in steel plants and removing any bottlenecks. So that is my role.
Wow. So, apparently, in this audience that we have, a lot of people are coming from family businesses, want to bring innovation to their existing family businesses. So, how are you doing that after an engineering degree for 4 years, work-ex for 2 to 3 years, and then masters, and you being 28 now? How are you taking that initiative, which you always wanted to take back in the day?
I think so. When we say innovation, so I used to think that innovation is introducing maybe a new product line or something that's never been done before. But innovation could also be, so in my role specifically, when I'm talking about ops, innovation can also be along the line of introducing systems. Systems that maybe the company or the industry has never seen before. So I came in with the notion that if I have to contribute something or if I have to innovate, I have to think of something that's never been thought of before. And let me just say this because without extensive domain knowledge, I think it is unfair to put that pressure on yourself. Maybe if you've, there's a reason that the generation before us is able to foresee these ideas in such legacy industries is because they've gotten their hands dirty and they've spent decades working in that industry, so they can foresee, okay, maybe this could be a product line that can help you capture more of the market. But when you've just joined the business, I think and if you're serious about innovation, I think you can maybe take a step back and find ways to optimize your processes. You can innovate by introducing systems that people have never heard of. So this is one industry that lacks digitalization on a very massive scale. It's a very dusty industry. It's a very it's a very old industry, very male dominated, and with the newer generation coming in, with newer grads coming in, innovation can be introducing like tools like Notion, for example, for project management, right? I mean, that's something people may not necessarily welcome, but yeah, if you can see with conviction that it can be something game changing for your operations, then why not? Then it is an innovation, I feel.
Certainly. The fun fact is earlier, and I want to learn from your perspective here, that back in the day, people were patient in terms of innovating. They were willing to wait for 10 years, 20 years, decades, right? The patience was there. Our previous generations and generations before that. But right now, what happens is with the immense access to opportunities, the immense access to networking opportunities, the patience to innovate has shrunk very significantly. So how do you deal with this paradoxical nature of innovation? Because see, your upbringing, I'm a very staunch believer that in life you're an average of your conditioning only. You are born with a certain set of intelligence. If you do not capitalize on that, one person might be making a big mistake, right? So I was reading this book by Howard Gardner, Frames of Mind. So there are 5 sets of different intelligences. So if you capitalize on your intelligence and you find your own intelligence, you are league apart, right? You can still be intelligent in the other frame of mind, but still it'll take you more time, right? Because already someone is pursuing something there. But now my question to you is, you're brought up with the thought of being patient in innovation with perseverance, because your family has been in the business for 5 decades now, right? But now you come in, there's certain haste, there's certain curiosity, there's certain impatience, and this is what you're born in, your generation is born into this. So how do you balance this both?
It's a good question. I think it's because it's so deeply ingrained. I mean, this idea of impatience and this idea of wanting to make an impact wherever you go. I think it's necessary to go for it and run straight into go for it and just run into a wall and realize that this is not the right thing to do. I think so. I mean, I think regardless of whatever we hear, from people older or people more experienced, we still have that conviction to go for it and try and make an impact. But if I have to speak for myself in my business, I think it doesn't come that easy. I don't think I know it doesn't come that easy. And whatever impact that any of us want to see ourselves making, I think it is at least a decade away. So it's a lot of getting your hands dirty in the beginning, and not thinking about whatever impact or like you want to make.
So I'll give you another perspective to this. So I basically running a company called Crowd, social media platform, and social is Gen Z leveraging tech in the fintech industry. So what we are trying to build here is a blue ocean. Blue ocean means that it is a market which has not been penetrated enough. There's not a rule book that okay you can follow this and you can achieve these milestones. But for him, the industry that he is in, it is actually a red ocean. They're like many players, the competition is very cutthroat, and I was just asking him the profit margins. So he earns, let's say his company would earn 2 rupees per kg of steel sold. So that is the margin that they're looking at. So the volume needs to be so high. But for us, he talks about getting hands dirty. I talk about getting our soul and body dirty. Because हम तो सिर्फ पैसा फूकने के लिए आए हैं. That's it. Because I'll tell you honestly, because investors do give you money to take equity in. And I was having a very fascinating discussion with him that in an industry like his, I would call it under the industrial segment of our country, they would rather take debt instead of equity. So the reason is, and I got to learn about this, is that when you talk about a founder, when you talk about a startup is just a new way of looking at something, right? That's the number one thing. Number two is that is only maybe 5 or 10% of the work of the startup. But the 90% of the work that startup has to do is to make a business out of it. And this is the only reason why most of the startups fail. The numbers are 90% of the startups fail, and my aakade is in that 10%, 90% of the startups fail to make a business. So that's where you're burning cash all along. So that's one, I'm just giving you a eagle-eye view of both a company in the industrial segment and a company in the tech space. So now what's your take on the debt versus equity part? Would you ever give equity?
Yeah, I mean, it's not the preferred choice for sure. But again, I think it's more emotionally driven than practically, because it's a family owned business. There's a certain legacy. So it's just harder for, the family to part ways with ownership. But again, it's not something, maybe my views would differ from the generation before me. I would be more willing to. But yeah, but to answer your question, I think it's more. I think debt is more familiar. I think taking on debt is more familiar. It's where it's the comfort zone for most family-owned businesses, I feel, and giving up equity comes at a stage where I guess it's not much of a choice. Maybe you need money now for expansion, or maybe you need money now to buy certain machines which you don't have, and you've already exhausted the deadlines you have. So yeah, I mean, not the preferred choice, but sure, why not? I mean, at some point.
Certainly. Now let's go to your family background, right? And when I mean background, I mean your nurturing. So all of us come from very different families, and I want to understand how certain learnings that you have had in life, though you have passively learned it, how is it helping you today? How are you nurtured to be a leader in the business that your family has had for 50 years? How are you built for this today?
I think it's honestly just, again, there's huge emphasis on the word passive. It's never been active. And for me personally, I've always just seen my father and my uncles, and I've heard stories about my grandfather, how they went about their dealings. And my grandfather passed away before I was born, but I've heard stories about him. With my father, especially, and my uncles, I mean, I've seen him hold meetings at our house right before dinner, and I've seen some customers join us for dinner, and I've just been on the sidelines hearing those conversations. So I think somewhere at the back of my mind, I did register those conversations, and I did register the intents on both sides. So again, like, you can only connect dots looking back, right? I mean, you can't exactly plan this, or I don't think even parents can. Or maybe they can. I'm not the right person to say that, but
Soon.
no, but the conditioning, I feel, is just it's just through these experiences. I mean, it's just going to dinners with, let's say, or dinners with customers, or dinners with your suppliers, and just let's say we're on a vacation in Mumbai, for example, and my dad or my father would like run into someone who he who he was associated with maybe 20 years ago, for example. So if I'm just sitting in on that conversation, for me that's I feel like that's conditioning. So
Certainly. I'll just take 3 to 4 questions right now from the audience to keep the engagement high. So, any questions for Sarthak or me? About, yes.
So Sarthak, as you are part of your family business, so as someone who may be in the same situation afterwards, do you feel any pressure to live up to the great legacy that your family must have left you?
yeah, absolutely, every day. It's very real, and I do. And but what I try to tell myself is, you don't have to live up to a certain legacy. I mean, I feel like that shouldn't be the primary intent. I feel like you should be focused more on building your own legacy and do it whatever way you want to, right? There's no playbook, there's no blueprint. You can't see, the funny thing is you can't replicate what someone has been through. If they built their legacy in a certain way, I don't think that you can follow the same path, because I mean the circumstances were different, the times were different. What you can do is create something of your own, and even if someone, let's say you join your family business, and all you do is show up on time, all you do is show up before everyone and leave after everyone has left. I think that's leaving a big impact on things. So yeah, so there is pressure, but you deal with it.
Any other questions? Okay. I have a question for you. Manogna, yeah.
So earlier when we were having a conversation, you mentioned that experience is very important. So I saw that many people are interested in getting a corporate job. Do you think that is the ideal type of experience, or is there any other experience you would suggest? Or like what's the most contributing type of experience for people to get into entrepreneurship businesses, or beat their family business? This question is for both of you. Since you are a founder and you are in a family business, what type of experience do you think helped you all gain the required experience or exposure to be where you are right now?
So, if you have that clarity, if one has that clarity early on that they're going to end up in their family business, I think it's definitely wiser to get experience outside of your family business, be it in a corporate role or maybe even a startup. But it would make more sense if if the role or the domain is somewhat linked to what you're going to be doing in your family business. Let's say you have a clothing store, for example. So it might make sense to spend some time in like a, I don't know, like a textile plant, for example, right? And maybe not so much if you're coming from a tech background and you want to join your family business, which is into textiles. Again, I mean, experience always helps, but if you have that clarity that you're going to end up in your family business, then I would say, and I know people who did this, that target internships, or like look for opportunities that you know for sure are going to help you. Like the domain knowledge is going to help you when you get back to your family business. But yeah, but to answer your question, experience is, I mean, it's an essential. I feel it only helps big time.
At least my answer would be just a rephrasing of his answer. First is that you need to have that moral compass, that north star in life to set your direction in. And when you're very early in life, you know that what direction you're gonna take. Number one, if it's for him family business, the north star has to be that. For me, north star was a question mark. Okay, like, what do I want to do in life? I didn't know. But yes, for him, of course, it made sense that every experience that he has in life, that he takes in life, the back of the mind thought is, oh, I have to apply it to my family business, irrespective. So that's the beauty of it, to have that moral compass, that North Star. For me, the case was a little confusing. Reason was that I didn't know if I wanted to do, I wanted to start up, I wanted to do a corporate job or something else. The reason was that my family background is in government services and politics. So I always had that exposure. And one thing he pointed out really well is that आपके घर से अच्छा example कहीं नहीं मिलेगा, because see, whatever your family is doing, you are actually breathing that experience day in and out till 18 years of your life. No experience, no internship, no full time can ever freaking beat that. That's number one. ये बात एहसास तब होगी जब आप 25-26 साल के हो जाओगे. Number two reason is that you need to find a niche that you can actually conquer. And when you talk about niche, you cannot create your own niche. You need to explore as many opportunities as you can. I wanted to do that so that I can find that one thing, two thing, three things which I'm really, really passionate about. And then the niche picks you. Trust me, the niche picks you. And he talks about coincidence. This is how coincidence happens. That's about linking of dots. Like, there's a कहावत, खुद ही को कर बुलंद इतना कि खुदा तेरी तकदीर लिखने से पहले पूछे बता तेरी रज़ा क्या है. That's number one. And number two, कामयाबी एक ऐसी चिड़िया है, उसी के छत पर बैठती है जो उसको नहीं ढूंढ रहा होता. So what you can do is the parishram, the work, and just the patience, that opportunity would come in your hands. Like case in point, I'll tell you, I was never the first co-founder of Crowd, never. I was just an employee. I was head of growth first. How was I head of growth? I interned at Crowd for 6 months. After interning for 6 months, we built the product. We raised first round of funding from Hexa, expanding in Europe, and I was then at Imperial. That risk was there. That belief was there, that conviction was there कि शायद यार मेरे को पसंद है. And reason पता है क्यों पसंद था मुझे? क्योंकि मैं उस problem से पीड़ित था. I was a victim of the problem that the startup was solving. So every single day, one thing was on my mind, was not to earn money, was not to have a full-time job, was not to have an internship, but just to solve a problem which I've been a victim of for the past 3 to 4 years. And every single day I was just thinking to make a better solution for it. And the beauty of this is that every solution that you make, it is not the full stop. It is just a semicolon. You would want to find another solution to that, always. So there's no, end goal, cul-de-sac as we call it. So yes, to answer your question, I was exploring every single thing. I was exploring every single internship. I was meeting a lot of people. I was getting a lot of perspectives. And when your moral compass is there, life itni sundar hai, it automatically makes a beautiful soup out of all that, right? And it tastes delicious, trust me. So then got the opportunity to expand, lead Crowd, the parent company, bring it to India, and with the team. And I'll tell you one thing, one very beautiful thing. If your moral compass is not true in its character, I don't think people will start backing you up. When people ask who is the heart of Crowd, I always say it is the team. Like team se badkar Crowd ka kuch hai hi nahi. We have 50 plus people in our team, and people have been with us. We have Bhanvi here sitting. She has interned with us for 1.5 years. When the internship was supposed to last for 2 months, she left 3 full-time jobs which paid twice as much as we are paying her, and she left those jobs for us. Listen, if people are believing in whatever we are building, I'm like, yeah, kuch to theek hi kar rahe hoge. And this is what your moral compass, this is what your character, this is what your company's character actually shows. So founder is not a person who's just a representative of a company. Founder is a person who's trying to find himself or herself through the thing that they are trying to do with their company. It's a reflection of them. So that is what I am trying to, conclude, Marugna. So all the experiences are beautiful. No experience is bad, and the bad experiences are the most beautiful experiences as well. So that's my answer to your question. Yes.
I have a question, Ajitesh.
Yes.
So, I mean, you've elaborated on the ethos of Crowd,
Yeah.
right? And you spoke about what Crowd does, but I know the answer to this question, but I'd want you to elaborate. But why don't you walk us through how Crowd started? I mean, I was lucky enough to be there when it happened in the early stages, but I think it's a very inspiring story, and you must tell that story.
Okay, honored. So Imperial College London, doing my master's, 6 months in, my second semester was on, and I received a message on LinkedIn from a person called Johannes, and the person said, hey, we are building a platform to democratize financial discussions. You seem like a great fit to take a survey from. Would you be up for a Google Meet? एंड मी बीइंग मी तजुर्बा करता ही रहता हूँ, मैं अभी कर ही रहा हूँ आधे घंटे से. I was like, let's meet in person. Let's meet at the business cafe. So I met him at the business cafe, Imperial School ka, and I said, listen, I love what you're building. And after I heard what he's building, and it was just a vision. The product was not matured. I was like, let me help you. If you have a place, I'll work for free. And I learn a lot because I was always I succumbed to this problem. So how did I do that? So when I was 20, I exited one company. It was basically a plugin which fetch real-time prices of any asset class that you make a trade-off. So I took an exit of 70 lakh rupees. I was 20 years old then. Okay? And I took that, and I took around 60 lakh rupees and put it in the stock market. And V-shaped recovery thi. I made 3x. I was like, I am God. Like I had that feeling, because you're invincible. Like when you're 20 and you earn this much money, I'm like ठीक है बेटा, मतलब कर लिया, कुछ कर लेंगे आगे. तो अहंकार ऐसी चीज़ है ना, सबको पटक के मारती है ज़मीन पे. So I earned so 60 I'll turn into 3x. I sponsored my masters also with that. Expenses भी निकल जाते थे थोड़े बहुत. But then I started leveraging a lot. So थोड़ा capital था, मान लो if you have let's say 20L. At that time in 2021, 2022, you could leverage 5x. तो मैं 20 लाख से 1 करोड़ का ट्रेड ले सकता था in futures, right? Then Russia and Ukraine war happened and my portfolio was halved. Every day lower circuit लग रहा है, 5%, 10%, 15%, 30-40% पैसा मेरा चला गया. And I was like, what did I do in life? ठीक है, भूल गया, मुगली गुट्टी लिए, उसके यहाँ लाइक भाई अब सोते हैं. Now I go to Imperial, and then this incident happened, the meeting. So yes, I was with him for 7 months building the product. Then I still applied for full-time job offers. And the paradox was, the beauty of the paradox is, my parents wanted me to do civil services examination. They wanted me to be an IPS officer. I was like, ठीक है, बोल रहे हैं, कर सकते हैं. बट उनने बोला, बेटा तुम अभी बाहर गए हो, जॉब तो लेके आनी, खाली हाथ मत आना अगर तुम आ रहे हो तो. अब यार ईवो पे आ गए कि अब मैं क्या करूँ. So I did apply to a few places. I got into decent places. Then I was like, okay, let me leave it, because then crowd got funding. But I had one condition कि let me bring crowd to India. And anyways हम virtually काम कर रहे थे, तो let's try it out. January 2024, crowd came to India. Zero marketing budget, zero team. इकलौता मैं ही परिंदा था पूरी टीम में इंडिया का. And then we had the most beautiful partnership with Lady Shri Ram College, जिससे जहाँ पे भानवी भी आई. She was a second intern. First was Ojasvi Anand. And then धीरे धीरे we amped it up to 30-40 people, built a product team here. And then we go to July of 2024. मतलब लगभग 7 महीने लगे. 70% web traffic came from our country. और जबकि हमारे प्लेटफॉर्म पे यूजर्स वर ओनली क्वार्टर द नंबर ऑफ यूजर्स अक्रॉस द ग्लोब में लगभग लाइक इन यूरोप एटलीस्ट वी हैड अराउंड 20,000 यूजर्स. इंडिया में लगभग आप उसका लगा लो 1/4 था. सो व्हेन वी वेंट फॉर द सेकंड राउंड ऑफ फंडिंग आफ्टर जुलाई 2024, यूरोपियन इन्वेस्टर्स सेड कि we want to put money in the Indian market, Indian side of crowd. And that was quite a dilemma for my co-founders. The reason is they were Europeans. They had zero knowledge about the Indian market. And I'm an Indian, so I am very well aware of how the market works, how the people are, what is the user like, what is the problem like. So then the tough decision was taken by them to step down. And I was made the CEO of the company, largest stakeholder, and given the torch to lead the company. So investors, SEBI regulations, RBI regulations. आप समझो 24 साल का इंसान अगर यूरोप की कंपनी इंडिया लेके आ रहा है, मेरे को तो खुद पे भी भरोसा नहीं था. पता नहीं मेरे मेंटर्स को मेरे पे कैसे भरोसा हुआ. तो जुलाई 2024 से अप्रैल 2025 तक ये काम चला. लगभग आप मानो 9 महीने थे ये. And we raised a second round, and now in India we have 50 plus people in our team. Number 2, we have 30,000 plus downloads. Number 3, one of the more, like in our industry at least, we have around 33% active users monthly. So at least we are doing much better than other competitors. And now we are raising a third round. So to call it the whole journey from just being an intern, contributing to a problem which I wanted to solve, to crowd becoming now a multi-million-dollar company. I think that was a journey. But I'll be honest with you, it was not possible at all if I was not an Indian. अगर मैं भारतीय ना होता तो शायद ये मुमकिन होता ही नहीं. So ये कोई मेरी काबिलियत नहीं है. ये आई थिंक मेरे देश की काबिलियत है, हमारी टीम की काबिलियत है, एंड जस्ट हाउ आर कंट्री एक्सेप्टेड दिस आइडिया ऑफ अ यूरोपियन प्रोडक्ट एक्सपैंडिंग हियर. सो दैट्स माय जर्नी.
Well done, man.
बहुत धन्यवाद. आई थिंक ऊपर वाले की कृपा.
Yeah, I always tell Ajitesh, I wish I was an intern at Crowd.
No.
Life is so amazing at Crowd.
No. But it has been a journey, yes. Sarthak, I'll come to you again. Now, let's talk about the steel industry as a whole. And guys, I'll tell you why this is very important to understand. Steel industry in our country is the backbone. Reason is everything around us is actually built on that. Maybe what sir is using for tripod is made out of steel. Steel is used there. And how does it reach every single corner of our country? Infrastructure heavy country. We are expanding heavily on infra. Our government's initiative is that. So now let's talk about the Indian dynamics of your industry. Then we compare it with the global standards. We look at China, and then let's see what we can make out of it. So can you tell us a bit more about the Indian side of your industry?
Like, what exactly would you want me to focus on?
Talk
That's very
about
broad.
steel production, number one. The initiatives by the government to amp up the steel production to the 2030 goal. What challenges do you think we would face? And how are you a catalyst to, let's say, amping this growth story of India?
So when we're talking about steel production, it's nothing glamorous. It's actually very unsexy. I don't know what the word is, but it's very. You can imagine like acres of space somewhere on the outskirts of, I don't know, like in the remotest of places, and very dusty environments, very high temperatures, 60 degrees Celsius. There's molten metal everywhere. It's very noisy. So, I mean, those are the first things that come to anyone's mind, anyone who's aware of what steel production looks like. So, I mean, it's not exactly a very friendly environment, but it's how steel is made. It's how steel has been made for the longest time. So, I mean, the dynamics are they're pretty much the same, but they're also very complicated. There is a need now to change those dynamics because what you just said, like India has a vision of producing 300 million tons of steel in 2030. And like I just said before, we produced 146 million tons last year. So that's more than doubling India's capacity in 4 years' time, which is a very steep target. And the only way, and the way we're helping, the way we're ensuring that our customers can do that, like at least from our part, is just making sure that whatever we're giving them, it's more efficient, it's of the highest quality. There's only certain aspects that we can control when it comes to steel production. It's a bunch of processes. It's a bunch of things that have to come together for the steel to be produced. There's raw material, there's availability of scrap, there's the kinds of furnaces you have, there's the kinds of machinery you invest in. So ours is I wouldn't say a small part, but it is in the larger scale, it is a part of it. I wouldn't say small or big. So we're doing whatever in our capacity we can to optimize our deliveries. We're very grateful that we've been receiving projects for some of the biggest manufacturers in India as they're amping their capacities for the same reason. Obviously, I mean, everyone's goal is profit first and then, everything else. So, I mean, the role we're playing is just making ourselves able enough to handle that capacity and support these guys in whatever ways we can. And just to put this, in perspective, when we're talking about 300 million tons of steel in 2030, China nears 1 billion tons of steel already. So that's the gap we're looking at. We say, okay, China has slowed down in the last few years. Sure, maybe it has, but we're way behind still. And, we have a long, long way. It's a great pursuit to be able to, match China. And I'm only talking about steel. I don't want to generalize this on any level, but I'm only talking about what I see. I mean, reaching 1 billion tons, that's more than 3 times of what we're envisioning now. And 2030. Yeah, in 2030. So it's a steep target. And what I guess what we can do, what we are doing, is just making ourselves more able, making ourselves more efficient. Uh, you asked about government incentives. Sure, I mean, the government is supporting the industry quite a bit, but China is also not very, China doesn't take a back seat on sending mass volumes of steel into our country, right? I mean, the import percentages are still like, significantly high, and it's steel being produced at a much lower cost in China and being sold for a much lower price in India than what we produce here. And so it's a combination of both, wanting to curb these imports and at the same time making ourselves more, or placing ourselves on a level where we're able to sort of match the needs of our country. So I think, does that answer the question?
It does answer the question. Now I want to understand. So when we are sitting in the sitting area, one person asked him a very good question, that okay, we come up with the same amount of capital, and we set up the same plant next to your plant, and which is much better, much more modern, and much better rates, right? Why would the person go to you, and why would the person not go to the other person who just is very new in the industry? And Sarthak gave a very beautiful answer. Sarthak, please, do you want to answer this question?
Yeah, so again, like I said before, I mean, this industry is so uh, old school and so conservative. And when I first came into this business, I'm extremely grateful for that moment. And there's this guy who's a veteran in this industry who's been working for the last 50 years. And we were talking about, actually, I was in Mumbai when this happened, and we were talking about, how people go back on their commitments. And he looked at me and he said, there's only one thing you need to know when you're in this industry, that pran jaye par vachan na jaye. You can do whatever you want, but you cannot, there is no way for you to go back on your commitment, because if you do, that's when you lose the game. That's it. So to answer your question, I mean, again, it was a brilliant question. I forgot his name.
Tapas.
Tapas, yeah. So if anybody has the same amount of capital, and if they set up an industry or a company right next to mine, it's better looking, better, of the higher quality standards, it would come back to goodwill. Tapas used that word, right? So it would come back to the goodwill that a company like mine, and I say this, with immense gratitude, that again, I don't have any contribution in that, but the goodwill that my company has been able to build in the last 50 years. So going back to, again, how conservative and old school this industry is, anybody who's looking to invest hundreds of crores would, of course, place heavy importance on, your quality standards and your machining standards and how you maintain your workshop. But the highest, the highest importance they would give is to whether you're able to keep your word or not. And regardless of however much money you have, or regardless of however loaded you are when it comes to your business, it would all come down to who you are as a person and what your character is. If you're committing something right now, चाय पे आपने कुछ बात करी और कल अगर आप भूल गए, तो I mean, that's when it doesn't matter how much money you have, or what kinds of operations you're running. So
Adding to this, so when I was going to investors to raise money, I had around 11 meetings with investors, and 10 of them said yes, and one said I'll come in the next round. I was very curious. I met them for the second time, actually third time, many of them, just on a casual coffee. And I asked them, what made you believe in the vision of Crowd? Like, what made you believe in what we are building here? Because, I'm a first time, like, I've just got to know about business. I just got to know about entrepreneurship. There's too much at stake for your money. Number one reason, they said that, oh, we are playing a poker bet on the founder. And I'm like, okay, what made you believe that, okay, I am worthy of that poker bet? They said that, okay, you come off as a person who we maybe can trust. I'm like, मैंने ऐसे क्या कर्म करे, मतलब, we just have had a meeting for 1 hour or 1.5 hours. And what he said was actually so amazing. He said that charitra, which is your character, actually talks to them before you even utter a single word. That's the first impression that your body language, that your energy of yourself resonates. So if you are not true to what you're building, what you believe in, and if you're just creating a facade, एक मान लो एक चेहरा है बस, they would actually smell it. And I always say that okay, अगर मान लो मेरा कल एग्ज़ाम है, and let's say मेरा कोई कल मेरी फ्लाइट है 4 बजे की, and someone pops in my house at 11 p.m. and I ask them out of gratitude कि what will you have, and as I mentioned I love cooking, and they said यार तू बिरयानी बहुत अच्छी बनाता है, बिरयानी बना दे मेरे लिए, and I am like बिरयानी बनने में 1 घंटा लगेगा and I have to sleep now. In my actions they would understand that that they are not welcomed. So that is what character is, that is what truthfulness to your own self is important. So what he said was, and I think it's applicable to every business, it is applicable to every job, and it is applicable to every internship that you do, that जो आपके गुरु हैं, जो आपके टीचर्स हैं, जो आपके business partners हैं, they would always put the first and जो कहते हैं ना ground zero emphasis is how much can they trust you. शायद आपका व्यापार ना चल रहा हो, या शायद आपका मतलब समथिंग इज़ नॉट राइट इन योर लाइफ फ्रॉम अ वेरी प्रोफेशनल पर्सपेक्टिव, बट फ्रॉम अ पर्सनल पर्सपेक्टिव दे कैन ट्रस्ट यू. दैट इज़ वॉट यू हैव टू बिल्ड, दैट इज़ वॉट वन शुड बिल्ड, बिकॉज वंस दैट इज़ लॉस्ट, पैसा बाद में कमा लोगे, आपको दिक्कत नहीं, लेकिन इज्जत एक बारी चली गई ना, वो वापस कमाई नहीं जाती. सो आई थिंक दैट इज़ वन ऑफ द बिगेस्ट थिंग्स विच आई हैव लर्न फ्रॉम अदर पीपल्स एक्सपीरियंसेस, एंड इवन माई एक्सपीरियंसेस टू सम एक्सटेंट. We come to China, right? So now 2x, right? We have to 2x by 2030. That's an immense year-on-year growth that we need to have. Where do you see, like, how do you correlate the improvements of steel industry with the improvements in infrastructure in India? And how have you seen things change in the past 5 years, let's say? And how do you see it going till 2030?
So I feel like, a lot of these manufacturers have their next gen coming into the business, and the guys, I mean, they're like 24, 25, somewhat our age, and again, this is actually going back to what we spoke before when we spoke about innovation, right? So again, this ties back to the whole topic, because they're coming in and they're wanting to make an impact, and they want to try ways which haven't been tried before. And when we talk about like mechanical equipment, let's say, right, when we talk about a machine, अगर वो machine एक किसी वो 3 प्लेटों को साथ में वेल्ड करके एक machine बन रही है, there's only certain, there's a limit to which you can innovate that. I mean, what exactly can you do? I mean, you can reduce the weight, maybe you can use better materials, but that's probably it. You can't expect the same piece, the same black box to give you 10 times the output, or in this case twice the output. So what is happening now is that the next gen that is coming in is very welcoming of the idea of digitization. In an industry like this, digitization is probably the last thing that the legacy guys or the older guys on the shop floor want. It's only because it's something out of their comfort zone. So what is being done now is something called predictive maintenance. It's industry 4.0. I think maybe some engineering people would have some idea about this. But the idea is that instead of reactive maintenance is something which means if something breaks and you respond to it, that's reactive. Predictive maintenance is you're able to predict when something's going to break. And the way you can do that is by putting sensors on that thing and getting data that you feed into a model, which over time becomes more accurate or gives you more accurate predictions. So I mean, such investments or such measures haven't been taken in India as such. They're very tested and they're running very well abroad in like Europe and even in China, not in India. But what is being done now is that such efforts are being welcomed, because everybody sees that this is what needs to be done to take themselves to the next level. I'll repeat this, there's a certain limit to which you can innovate a machine. I mean, that has been done for the last 70, 80 years. But the integration of tech, the integration of AI and ML in steel, that is what is being done. And what's happening now is everybody's welcoming it. And I really feel that is what is going to take us, and when I say us, I'm talking about India, the steel producers and the suppliers and the dealers and the users, in their at their construction sites or wherever. That is what is going to take us to the next level. The ability to you wanting to like step out of the comfort zone and bring something in that's never been brought in before. So in this case, it's technology.
Quite fascinating. So let's say if I have 100 crores, I don't have that, guys, just saying. If let's say I have 100 crores, what business, how do I set up a steel plant? Walk me through the whole process.
I mean, if you, it's a long process, but if you have that kind of money and if you're willing to enter this industry, then it's very important to get your homework done in the first place. I mean, if you have absolutely no experience whatsoever in this industry, I think the first thing you should ask yourself is why. I mean, why, why not, you know, get into, why not invest that money somewhere else? Why do you want to enter in a market that has, you know, uh, crazy hassles and, you know, just very messy compliances? But the process would be, to answer your question, is first identifying what exactly do you want to produce. Let's say you want to be producing rebars or TMT bars, सरिया जिसको हम कहते हैं. अगर आपको सरिया बनाना है तो आपको कितना सरिया बनाना है? The answer to that could be like, I don't know, like 100,000 tons. अगर आपको 1 लाख टन सरिया बनाना है, then are you sure that you're going to be able to sell that kind of volume? And to do that, you have to take a step back and identify if there's even a market in the region you want to set up that plant in. If I'm talking about, let's say, Raipur, if I have that kind of money and I see an opportunity in Raipur, then I need to know that I need to be sure that there is an audience, there is a network of users or dealers that would consume all of that. Actually, ideally, I mean, I would want to be sure that they would consume at least 1.5 or twice on what I'm planning to make, so that I can, you know, I'm able to increase my capacity down the line. I'm not just making what I'm sure I can sell, I'm making less than what I'm sure I can sell. So I have the opportunity to, upgrade myself in the beginnings. So once you know what you're going to be making, once you know how much you're going to be making, then you need to take a step back and ask yourself, okay, how am I going to make this? There's certain, there's different avenues you can explore when it comes to sourcing your raw material. You can have access to mines, you can have access to steel scrap. I won't get into the technical details, but once you know the raw material, once you know what you're going to be making, where you're going to be making it, how much of it you're going to be making it, and once you're confident that you're going to be able to sell that, only then you can move on to the next step and talk to people like us maybe about, okay, let's say if I have 100 crores, I'm investing 40 crores in my land. How much would I be required to invest, keeping those constraints in mind? If I need to be producing a certain volume of a certain product in a certain area, how much of the 100 crores would I be needing to invest in machinery? I mean, those are the discussions that happen, prior to any project that materializes. And once it does, it's a cycle of about 18 to 24 months before you start to see any actual production. So it's a lot of patience, it's a lot of homework, it's a lot of efforts run by huge teams on the background. It's not a one-man show. It can never be a one-person show. So yeah, that is what it is mostly.
I think my final question for you for the day would be, I think I have two questions. Number one, can a new age person, no background in this industry, enter this industry as a startup? Number one. And number two is your final words for the audience sitting here as to how to approach the uncertainty and again the conviction that coincidence will happen in a beautiful way than you can ever imagine.
So, I mean, to answer the first question, you're saying as a startup in this industry wanting to produce steel?
Yeah.
I-
Set up a steel plant, yeah.
I mean, can someone? Sure, they can, but I don't think it's a very wise endeavor because there's already cutthroat competition in this industry, and survival is quite difficult. And I've seen, people, legacy companies losing business at a pace that even they couldn't foresee, even after being in the industry for decades. So, yeah, again, someone can start up in this industry, someone can do that, but yeah, wouldn't recommend. And the second question, I think about uncertainty. So, I mean, I feel like anybody who's here, anybody who's in the audience is already, eh, more than enough capable of achieving whatever they're setting out to. And, I don't think I'm in a position to give any, a framework or a way to deal with this, but all I can say from my experience is just embrace the uncertainty when it comes. Like, it's all part of a plan, I would say. This is something I was told since childhood, but I only realized it very late, until a couple years ago, that things happen for a reason. And like you said, you can only connect dots looking back. I mean, even now, if you guys think back to your times in school and some decisions maybe you made, they would make sense to you now, and maybe they didn't make enough sense to you when you were making those decisions in the first place. So I think, yeah, it just works out. I mean, it's okay. You must have a plan, but you must be willing to accept changes in that plan. That's what I can say. I mean, you have certain things in control, but most things you don't. So you should only focus on what you can control and really go with the flow. Yeah.
Okay, then. I think with this, we end at least our discussion. Thank you so much for being a great audience,
Thank you.
guys. Thank you. Thank you. We have a few questions here. Yes, please.
So, as someone who wants to start a startup or entrepreneurship journey, what are the top 5 industry right now we should consider to enter in, that there is gap in India? And second question is, you have been through your journey, you have told us lot of things about your life and career as well. So, what were the mistakes as a 19-year or 20-year-old kid you will not do, and you will advise us to do in for our future career growth?
Okay, wow. Great question. Um, First, 5 industries. I think the industry that we are in right now, social media space for finance, is a great industry to be in. Not a lot of competition is there. So I encourage a lot of competition in that. So if you want to think about that, I think social space in India, social communities in India, driven by tech platforms, I think that is one very, very, very immature market. Like, I actually at times think, why cannot our country produce a social media platform which is at the level of Facebook, which is at the level of Instagram, at the level of Twitter? Why is it not that the case, right? We have the maximum number of daily active users from these platforms. But हमारा platform खुद का है ही नहीं. We do not have a WeChat type messenger, which China has. We do not have our own WhatsApp, and we have the maximum active users. So I think this space can be really, really, really mature, number one. I think number two, beyond social platforms, I think defense, particularly drones, have the startup market, I think, is growing at a good 30-35% CAGR, right? Right now, we are import driven. We have a lot of imports from Israel and Russia. Great stuff we are importing, but also now we want to be export oriented. So I think defense segment is something which can be looked at. That's number two. Number three is music tech is very fascinating. So when you can support local artists, you can promote their art via tech. I think this is a very immature market right now. So this is the third part. Fourth is content. So lot of content is being redefined right now, and I think it directly links with the first gap, which is of the social platform. Since the attention span is reducing a lot, our country's population is very young, right? We can look at content at a very new way, right? So I think in that space, if certain design elements are changed, content can be really redefined. So I think that's one fourth part. And I'm talking very niche, like very specifics of these markets. Like this can be applied to finance, research, etc. And fifth, personally, which I would be bullish on is, I don't know, hotel industry. Because it's really like, right now it's dominated by a lot of big players, and all of those big players are not Indian companies at the same time. Of course, Tata is doing great, Oberoi is doing great, but when you look at Hyatt, Marriott, etc., I think we still need to take that brand of Indian culture, take that brand of our hospitality. We are known for hospitality across the world. Vasudevam Kutumbakam, one world, one family, Atiti Devo Bhava. We treat our guests like no other people, no other country in the world. So we have to take this outside India, show the world that this is what Indians are known for. Just one of the 1,000 things that we should be known for. Taj did very well in that. But I think there's time for a second, third, fourth Taj. And yes, if the scale allows, I think these are the industries which I personally am very passionate about, and the passion is certainly driven by gaps in the market. So this is there, and you ask about mistakes one can avoid when you're 19 or 20. Being honest, make as many mistakes as you can when you're 19 or 20, because उस time तो हमारी मतलब we can actually afford to make mistakes. Like if you ask me if I would change anything in my life going back 5 or 6 years, I would never do that. मैं क्यों करूँ? मतलब अगर मैंने वो गलतियाँ ना करी होती तो मैं वो सीखता नहीं चीज़ें, मैं चीज़ वो ना सीखता तो शायद कुछ चीज़ें ज़िंदगी में होती ही नहीं. But of course, mistakes should be made out of curiosity first, not कि हम ऐसे ही गलतियाँ करे जा रहे हैं. Like my father used to say that a wise man or a woman is someone who learns from other people's mistake. An intelligent person is someone who learns from their mistakes, and stupid is वो खुद की mistakes से भी नहीं सीखता है. So try being as wise as you can, or anyone to be as wise as you can. And I'm still making mistakes. And entrepreneurship or founding a company is the best way to make mistakes. Reason is, I'll tell you the philosophy behind that. Number one, startup is something which you're trying to make a business out of, as I said in the beginning. You will make a lot of mistakes to find that one business model which yields out the maximum amount of money to you. That's number one. You'll fail. Second is, you'll fail, but you'll have support of other people around you. Be it your team. Team I would not call first, but be it your investors. They have invested in a company, they have invested their time, they have invested their trust, they have invested their value. Because of this, it acts as a springboard for you to be able to afford to make mistakes. And you being a reflection of your own company is basically you making mistakes, not the company making mistakes. So वहाँ पे जो कहते हैं ना गूदा है mistake लेने का वो आ जाता है. That's number two. But yes, targeted mistakes I've done, that's great. Having that moral compass and then making mistakes along those lines basically tells you that okay, if these mistakes are made in the right direction or not. And the beautiful part is, so Dr. Ritesh Malik is my mentor. He's an investor in Crowd as well. He's the founder of Innovate, which was sold to Oyo. So imagine this is the point you start from and this is the point where you end, right? This is your ambition. There are 1,000 different ways. The easiest path is this, which rarely people find. You can either go like this, you can either go like this, and you can either go like this. The beauty is, it is never like this as well, because it's consistent. You can predict it. Usually it's like this, and then you reach this place. आप गलती जब तक नहीं करोगे, you are hitting a wall. So do as many mistakes as you can. You are very young. So that's my simple answer. Thank you. Any other questions, guys? Yes.
So both of you have something in common, that you went abroad for an education abroad. So what does that exposure give you that you can't find here? And second question to you in specific, because you brought a European product to the Indian market and scaled it here. What is one thing common between the European market and the Indian market? If you may elaborate on that.
I'll answer the second question first. What is common between European market and the Indian market? I think both the markets love Indians. I think that's one thing which is common. But a more business-oriented answer. So you talked about exposure abroad, right? First is, I always believe you're an average of 5 to 6 people you hang around with the most. Until you're 18, your parents are your reference group. You learn from them the most, you inculcate their values. And let's say if I know your parents as well, I can tell similarities which you take from both of your parents, right? You can't change that. But बच्चे कच्ची मिट्टी की तरह होते हैं. um, the experiences that they have basically mold that kachi mitti of a kid to being a pot, that matka. And that is solidification of beliefs. You're not fluid in your beliefs, let's say, till 18. But as you turn 18, you go to college, your beliefs start getting very strong. Reason is, the world is so, fierce, that is willing to push you down, right? It is willing to bring you down. And that's where you have to be firm. But what people usually confuse is that the firmness of your belief can be dogmas of your belief, that you're so adamant that you're not willing to change. So the beauty has to really lie in the fluidity of your beliefs, number one, but also belief in your own belief. Those are the two things. Now coming to the broad question. See, there you're exposed to different nationalities. There you're exposed to a different, history. There you're exposed to a different culture. There you're exposed to a different, the way people live. So these are experiences, right? So in terms of personal experiences, of course there will be zameen asman ka farak, which you would not find here. That is one set. That's one segment. Okay? Personal experiences are very different. You come to theoretical experiences. See, if you talk about theoretical experiences, there can be similarities between both. We studied from Imperial College of London, Masters in Management. I'm certain IMs in our country are teaching 10x maybe better stuff than we are learning there. But what happens is that this theoretical nature of work is actually feeding directly into your personal experiences, which makes you relate on a day-to-day basis. And the diversity of your experiences is with people who are coming from business families, who want to take different jobs, who want to do something else, just want to do research. So ये जो concoction बनता है, it makes the whole package totally different. So personal experiences is the only X factor, which is the change, which basically leads to whole experience being a little better. So, but still, I'll be honest with you. Though I had the opportunity to go there, I was a JEE aspirant since grade 6th. Can you imagine? Like, मतलब छठी क्लास से फिट जी में बैठता था, 12-12 घंटे पढ़ता था. सोशल लाइफ खराब थी, मतलब horrible. Was built into an that introvert personality. And then जब बाहर गया तो option ही नहीं था, introvert की सुने कौन? तो फिर extrovert बनना पड़ा. But yes, pros and cons are there. So I think the diversity of experiences are the pros, but the rootedness of your own culture is the con. So yes, but if without batting an eyelid, I think I would have wanted to do a bachelor's in India, maybe masters abroad, because bachelor's in India still affirms your root here, and then you go abroad, take inspiration and bring it here. I always believe that meri janam bhumi karam bhumi Bharat hai. So when I went even to Edinburgh, and then when I went to London, I always wanted to bring something back to India. And with crowd, and now the answer is, my moral compass was always to come back to India. That was one thing, one part of my moral compass. So with crowd, automatically an opportunity sparked. And I just said, maybe let me try to bring it to India. Agar ye moral compass hota hi nahi, do you really think I would have brought it to India? The chances are I would have not. So this is the importance. Have, chittar phad ke moral compass, and things would align in your way. So that's my answer to your question.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. And I was going to say the same thing actually, because I mean, when we talk about the quality of education in India and abroad, like engineering, right? But तो हम सही भी चीज़ रहे हैं. I mean, it's the quality of education is more or less at par. In some cases, might even be better in India. I feel maybe it just comes down to यहाँ पे we're sitting with friends from different states. There you're sitting with friends from different countries, different continents. So it's just the perspective you gain passively when you hang out with them, right? Or like if you're working on some project. So I mean, that is one exposure that I don't want to say you can't get in India. Maybe you can. It's harder. It's more likely that you'll gain that exposure abroad. That is one. And I feel like when you're away from home, regardless, I mean, in India or abroad, if you're abroad, then of course you're farther from home. So when you're thousands of miles away from home, there's a certain sense of resilience that you have to build in yourself, right? You have to take care of yourself. You have to do your laundry. You have to cook, to file your taxes, to manage your expenses and whatnot. All of that happens in India too, if you're like, let's say from Delhi and you're studying in Mumbai, but the intensity of those chores just increases when you're abroad. So naturally the learnings and the teachings that you inculcate in yourself, the resilience you build into yourself, I feel like that compounds over time and gives you returns, like massive returns. At least I can see it now. I hope it gives continues to give the same returns in the future. But yeah, so I think that's the only difference, the two differences I see, the exposure you get when you study abroad.
बर्तन धोना सिखा देता है बाहर जाना ऑनेस्टली बर्तन धोना आपके अंडर गारमेंट्स धोना बाथरूम धोना भाई मतलब जो हम ऑनेस्टली आई किड यू नॉट यू नो इट्स अ वेरी फैसिनेटिंग कोरिलेशन सो व्हेन आई टॉक टू माय फ्रेंड्स हु हैव स्टडीड इन इंडिया वो पानी का ग्लास उठ के ना लाए अपने कमरे से लाइक भाई चलो साइड में मेरी बोतल ही पड़ी है बाथरूम धोना तो कभी सोचा ही नहीं था घर में दीदी भैया जो भी होते हैं तो बट यू नो आई स्टिल आई किड यू नॉट आई लव कुकिंग आई थिंक माई फैसिनेशन फॉर कुकिंग इंक्रीज्ड आई लव मेकिंग माई ओन बेड एंड इन फैक्ट लेट्स से आई लव मेकिंग माई रूम यू नो टाइडी अगर कोई धूल होती है मैं खुद ही डस्टिंग कर लेता हूँ कुछ होता है पोछा पोछा लेके खुद ही मार लेता हूँ बट आई डोंट नो यू नो ये आदत करा देते आदत आ जाती है आपको क्योंकि आप 5 साल ये कर रहे हो एंड इट बिकम्स नॉर्मल सो द थॉट ऑफ हैविंग दीज लग्जरीज आई थिंक दैट गोज अवे so for me I think at least specifically speaking it was that was the case and also you know you're on a very strict budget so इम्पीरियल तो भला मेरे एग्जिट से हो गई थी बट जब एडिनबरा गया था 3 years ऑफ माई ट्यूशन फीस वॉज स्पॉन्सर्ड एंड 1 year खुद देनी थी बट स्टिल एट टाइम्स यू नो जो बजट आता था होता था कि यार आज मैं शायद 8 pound का सैंडविच ना ले सकूँ मैं शायद 3 pound का ले लेता हूँ तो वो 5 pound बचाना इज लाइक 500 rupees बट दैट सेविंग acumen when it comes when you're 18 or 19 that was very important so I think that just you know conclusion of our answer.
So I did something very similar actually. I just remembered ki in my third year, I wanted to make sure that I have enough money to meet my own expenses. And my university was not, I mean, it wasn't in London or New York. It wasn't a fancy place. Oh, matlab ek gaon mein thi, काफी दूर. So my expenses weren't as much. But so I started working part time as a peer success coach. My lectures used to be from 7:30 until I think 3:30 and then uske baad until 6 I used to work every other day. So I was earning around I think $500 a month, which was more than enough to meet you know my expenses, and that is the first job I had. And you know I learned so much from that job, and it was the satisfaction of earning your own money. Again, I mean, you can do that in India as well. There's enough opportunities to do that, but like I had people I had some students from Africa who would come to our center and open up about facing like racism, or racist remarks from other people. So I mean, just dealing with those situations, I feel like that really teaches you a lot. And yeah, so that's something I would give much importance to there.
Any other questions, guys? Yes.
Hello Ajitesh, hello Sarthak. So Sarthak, building on your comment about working in a male-dominated industry, what is your perspective on encouraging and supporting more women entering and advancing in this field?
Yeah, so that's definitely, I definitely see improvements in that domain, and I'm all for it, honestly. I try to do it in whatever capacity I can in my own company. So when we're talking about like steel production, I don't see, and I wouldn't want to see more women in that environment. But the offices supporting those production levels on the back end, there's I see women entering in project management roles or in HR roles or in marketing roles, because I mean that's one perspective that engineers can give you, but it's not. I mean, I don't want to like bring gender into this, but it's something that someone who's worked on the shop floor for 50 years, maybe he's a solid technical guy, but he won't be able to tell you how to position your brand. Maybe some woman with a marketing background or with industry exposure can come into this industry and take charge of that situation. So that is what I see is happening in the recent few years. It's this industry. In the last few years on platforms like LinkedIn, it's become very active. And, legacy players like Tata and JSPL, they've been, the kinds of content they're putting out on social media, it's very fascinating. And it's something that, I don't know what the right word is, but it's something that resonates with the Gen Z audience as well, because they cannot have 50 or 60-year-old guys working in their roles, forever. So the kind of story that needs to be told on these platforms, the way it needs to be told, and you need to have, I feel like you need to really bring yourself to a level where you need to empathize with the people on the floor, and also put the vision of the company into content. I feel like women do that better. Again, I mean, no, I don't mean to sound sexist, but this is my perspective. So there is an improvement on the inclusion of more female workforce, but it's not on the floor. It's more on the back end, or sometimes even on the front end. So it is happening, yes, and I'm glad that the industry is welcoming that change. So
At crowd, 80% of our team is women.
80% of crowd? Oh wow. Yeah.
मैं शायद दूसरा तीसरा लड़का हूँ मुश्किल से.
So, like, as we know, the investors around the world have different psyches and how they look at markets. So, broadly categorizing them into US, Europe, and India, how do the psyches differ? Like, what do they look for, and in terms of cash burn and the specific things they look for?
I'll take this.
Yeah.
That's a very interesting question. I love that question. No one has ever asked me, and I've never had the direct answer to it as well. But now that I think, if I look at, I'll club the US and the European investors into one segment, and then the Indian investors on the second, and then I'll create a bifurcation between US and Europe. So when you look at investors in US and EU, they want to see the 30-year, 40-year, 50-year, or let's say, above 2-decade-year vision of your company. They want to see that. And it cannot be a very average way of looking at your revenue stream. Ki, okay, hum content बेच के पैसा कमा लेंगे, हम ये करके पैसा कमा लेंगे. They want to see a layer that, or a vision which is unachievable. That ambition, that's something which has to be inbred in your company. कि ये चीज़ हमें पानी है चाहे कुछ भी हो जाए. ठीक है? That's like, moonshot. They actually bet on moonshots. US and EU people. Indian investors, they actually look at a spectrum which is less than a decade of how potentially they can get an exit, what are your immediate revenue streams, and a lot of emphasis on that. But the only thing is that they do not look at things, at times at least, above 2-year or 2-decade vision of your firm. हमारे सारे investors बड़ा vision देखते हैं above 2 decades. But that being said, also US and EU investors are very specific to the sector that is booming. Let's say farm tech, health tech was there in 2020. Then fintech happened in 2021, 2022. Now it's all over the place. Fintech is of course raising good funds at a certain revenue multiple. Music tech is raising a lot of funds. So something which is niche is actually respected in US and EU. But the problem is that once this wave of startups in this particular segment go away, you are very hard. It becomes very, very hard to find funding from at least those funds. So for us, the beauty is we are first backed by a European fund, and it's a very big fund. There is like parallel to Y Combinator. They have an AUM of $1 billion. They have made, I think, $10 billion companies. And the philosophy that one of the founders of Hexa told me was that we bet on the 20, 30-year-old vision that you guys have. Because that is what the moral compass, that is what the North Star. So this is what they respect. India में थोड़ा short-term vision है. But the beauty of Indian investors are that they would bank on you a lot. So if let's say you seem a little trustworthy, they won't care much about the industry that you're in. So they will like, hey, paisa laga lo. But of course, this has multiple filters because what stage you're coming in at, right? Angel invest. So let's say if you look at angel investing, which is basically the first round, pre-seed bhi keh lo aap usse, usme everyone is almost similar. You go to seed, almost similar. But जब आप Series A, Series B, Series C, Series D करते हो, then the whole game changes. And if I talk in numbers, the valuation that you can get in US and EU would be much, much better than what you can get in India. At least in our case, let's say if a company is valued at 60 crores, we can get a value of around 200 crores in Europe. But India, that's the bargain that we have to accept. So that's, I think, one difference that I see. Anything you want?
I have a question for you.
Yes.
So I think this may be of interest to a lot of people here because anybody who sees themselves in an entrepreneurial role like you are, you're a founder. So is there something you think you can possibly take from like a legacy business or a family business background because of how different they are? But do you think there's something, maybe some observation you've made in me, or maybe in many business people from business families? So what do you think you can take from a family business environment and use that in your startup? Is there something like
Yeah.
that?
And the biggest thing that I will take is that I want to make Crowd a legacy business only. Yes, and I'll tell you, I have a deeper reason for that. See, all the legacy businesses, all the family businesses were not businesses then. They were only startups, right? You guys have put your hard-earned, jewelry के पैसे, मतलब शायद सोना गिरवी रख के business start करा होगा आपने. Sarthak's grandfather used to be a manager at a steel plant. And he basically had some savings. He set up his own company and he has built that respect over years and decades, through which he got his first project. And that is actually a startup. So for me, the only thing which I'll take from a legacy business is how to sustain in the business. अगर वो business नहीं बना पाए आप startup का, कुछ नहीं कर सकते. Legacy business, Sarthak is a third gen. He will be preparing his fourth gen. That fourth gen will be preparing the fifth gen. ये जो culture है ना, ये जो सोच है, ये जो mentality है, ये inbred अगर आपने करा दी अपनी team में, आपके future generation में, this is what I learned from legacy businesses. So for us, the biggest examples are not, let's say, of course there are reference examples for our industry, common stock, the companies who have done well in the segment that we are operating. But the real inspiration are these families. वो एक सोच था, वो एक स्ट्रगल था. 50 साल पहले स्टील प्लांट लगाना है, कौन सोच सकता है? उस टाइम आज़ाद ऑलमोस्ट हुए थे हम. We were struggling with dichotomy of civil services has always been there, but I'm just coming to the point that that longevity that you create in your own startup, that is what I want to look at. That is what I want to learn. That is what I want to be inspired with, and that's why I love hanging out with people who run family businesses. People actually say कि देखो ये तो third gen है, ये तो fourth gen है, इनको तो हाथ में मिला है. कि this is given, मतलब they were born with that silver spoon, golden spoon. But listen, that's not the case. The case is they have to make their business 5x, 10x for the next gen to be ready. How are they seeing growth every single generation in and out? And they have been born and bred with that thought. So this is what I call culture. Startup culture changes when the CEO changes. आप सार्थक, आप let's say your family take a step aside, but still the culture of your company would be as it is right now, and it will be the same 50, 60 years or 100 years later. This is what culture building is. So that's what I would learn.
Yeah, good answer.
Any other questions, guys? Yes.
So, sir, investors in India are, as far as I heard, that speculators more than they are into intrinsic value of a company. So, is it good thing or bad thing? Like, yeah, and is it like is speculation? Should it be a changing factor? No, sorry. Should the speculative mindset of Indian investor should change, right? Like, what are your views on it?
सी अगर इन्वेस्टर्स की बात हो रही है, आप इन्वेस्ट कर रहे हो, इन्वेस्ट किसके लिए कर रहे हो? टू हैव अ फ्यूचर रिटर्न. वो फ्यूचर रिटर्न का थॉट कैसे आ रहा है? एक स्पेकुलेटिव माइंडसेट के साथ आ रहा है. सो सी आई थिंक स्पेकुलेशन इज द ओनली इंट्रिंसिक कोर वैल्यू थ्रू विच एन इन्वेस्टमेंट इज ड्रिवन. द स्पेकुलेशन इज सो सब्जेक्टिव. लेट्स से आप डिफेंस सेक्टर में बुलिश हो, मैं नहीं हूँ. इट्स योर स्पेकुलेशन दैट ओके इट इज़ गोना बी ग्रेट and these are the so and so reasons why I think it's going to be great. But I might not agree with the same thing. But you're an investor, you're betting on it, right? So betting has to come with speculation, number one. But number two is, I think speculation has a two-faced role between how to take risk and how to not take risks. In India, when I talk about speculation, look at options trading. 9 out of 10 traders are losing money, right? The reason is that small capital can be invested 500,000 रुपए and उससे आप 5x, 10x, 100x कमा सकते हो, right? This is wrong speculation. I think speculation backed by facts, backed by research, backed by patterns, backed by history, backed by economics, backed by references, backed by perspectives. When this is a speculation ka framework, that is a good speculation, and I don't blame that. So for us at times when we raise investments, right, when we raise funding, when we go to investors, we basically make a pitch to support their speculation. That how are we providing value to have a checklist of the speculations that they have in mind. So I think it's intrinsic, it cannot change, and one has to agree with it.
Okay, sir. Good.
So I think that's all, guys. Thank you so much for being
Thank you
here.
so much.
It was an honor. Thank you.
As we come to the close of Arthavaad 2025, I would like to take the moment to reflect on the incredible insights we have had the privilege of experiencing today. Our speakers, Mr. Ajitesh Gupta and Mr. Sarthak Kathuria, have truly broadened our understanding of finance and shown us that it's not just a subject, but a way of thinking. Their words have left us with ideas that go far beyond theory, ideas that inspire practical applications and a mindset of growth. On behalf of FinRome, the finance cell of NMIMS MPSTME, I would like to extend a heartfelt gratitude to both of our speakers for sharing their experience with such grace, with such clarity and passion. I would like to call upon Mr. Shailesh Kulkarni to present the token of appreciation.
Excuse me, yeah. Yeah, all three of you in one line, sir.
Please give a huge round of applause for Bharvi Sindhi.
Thank you.
A big thank you as well to all the organizers, volunteers, and participants who made this event possible. And of course, to all the students present here today. Your curiosity and your engagement is what makes event like this truly meaningful. With that, I officially bring Arthavaad to a close. Thank you all once again, and let's end today not with a goodbye, but with the excitement of what's yet to come. Have a wonderful evening ahead. Thank you so much.
Video then photo. You can talk, you can laugh.